Thank you so much for being with us today for this, your Daily 180 Bible study. We begin a study today we're entitling The Simple New Testament Church. You know, sometimes you get the idea from people that the church is just whatever we want it to be. But the reality is that God is the designer of the church. Christ is the builder of the church. He purchased the church with His own blood. We're going to be seeing these things. Today, I want us to begin in Matthew chapter 16, verse number 13. And I want us to see a couple of things here. In Matthew chapter 16, beginning at verse number 13, we read, "When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, He asked His disciples, saying, 'Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?' So they said, 'Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets.' He said to them, 'But who do you say that I am?' Simon Peter answered and said, 'You are the Christ, the Son of the living God.' Jesus answered and said, 'Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven.'" Now it's rather interesting as we look at this. Christ says the bedrock, the foundation of the church is His deity. The fact that He is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Now, if Jesus is just a man, then we don't have much hope, and the church is of very little benefit. Well, think about it from this perspective. Any man-made church, any church that you can't find within the pages of the Bible, is of very little benefit because it's not built on the right foundation. Well, now let's think about something else. Jesus looks forward and says, "I'm going to build my church." Now I want you to give you another verse. Acts chapter 5 and verse number 11. There we read this. There we read that great fear came upon the church. Now think about that. In Matthew 16, Jesus said, "I will build my church." In Acts chapter 5, verse 11, there we read that great fear came upon the church. The church had been established somewhere between Matthew 16 and Acts 5. Oh, please keep joining us for these studies. We're going to talk about when was the church established and what does that tell us about the nature of the church. Join us again tomorrow for your Daily 180.